Hey there, welcome back to another video. This video is continuing in the series of mindset topics, so I hope you enjoy this video today. Before I get into our mindset topic for today, just another announcement. The retreat that I have been talking about in the last few videos, we are just about to launch the website page for it where you can register. So if you are interested, that is going to be going live here very soon. In my last video, I had a typo. If you didn't end up noticing, it is not February of 2033, it is February of 2023. So this February coming up, it's February 11th, 2023. It is a yoga style retreat where you can come and do yoga. Jennifer, the lady that I am co-hosting with, is an Ashtanga-based yoga teacher. She is an absolutely incredible yoga teacher. So she will be leading us through some vinyasa yoga classes and a workshop, also some savasana and Reiki and meditation. I will be offering restorative yoga, snacks, the food aspect, and some talk about nutrition as well. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, that webpage will be available for you soon, where you can get some more details and register if you would like. So today's topic is, again, along the area of mindset. Today it's going to be about building mental strength in communication. Now, there has been a lot of things these days about communication and how can we communicate even better to each other to help eliminate confusion and misunderstandings and all of those things. So as we all know, nowadays pretty much our communication for the most part is automated. We don't always communicate in ways that are true to us, communicating in ways that are respectful and mindful, choosing our words in a careful way. We don't always do that, and it's more automated. So how can we get back to a place where we're able to communicate effectively with each other? And by doing so, we dramatically decrease misunderstandings and confusion and frustration, and by all of that, distrust and all of these things. So how can we build our own mental strength in communication so we can communicate effectively, make sure that we are being understood as best as possible, and that we are actually communicating our true desires and needs? So something that I notice a lot when either in communication with somebody else myself, or if I'm witnessing a conversation between others, is that we tend to get a little swept up or lost in all of the energies that are taking place while we are communicating with somebody. We can easily end up going into a people-pleasing mode where we simply say what the other person is wanting us to say, or we forget about our own needs, wants, desires, boundary setting, and we say the opposite of maybe what is actually true for us. We can easily get into these places if we don't have some of the proper things set in place. So when in communication, the first thing that I would recommend is going slow with it. So if somebody says something to you, maybe you're even having a conversation because something needs to get figured out, allow the person to speak, and then before you even bother responding, just pause for a second. Take a breath, take in what they have just said, and then respond. A lot of times, especially now that everything is so fast-paced and quick, we just respond like that, and maybe that response could have actually been something slightly better or different, or maybe completely different, than if we had paused for a second and decided how we wanted to respond in more of a mindful way. So first off, take that breath, pause, decipher how you want to respond. One thing that can be really helpful to help us pause, as sometimes certain conversations are a little heated and it's hard to not just quickly respond in that first thing that comes to mind. So, something that can be really helpful to help ourselves slow down in that moment and really be more mindful and articulate our words in an intentional way is if we do a body scan. So if someone says something to you, do that pause and then do a body scan. And what I mean by body scan is to either start at your toes or start at the crown of your head and just scan your body. So you can be like, okay, I feel my toes, I feel my heels, I feel my calves, my knees, my thighs, working your way up the body to see how your body feels. Or you can do that from the head to the toes, either way. But what this does is it brings you back into your own body, your own energy to see how you are feeling in the moment, brings you back into more of that present clarity space. And then from there, that's your pause. From there, decide how you want to respond. Sometimes this can be difficult. Sometimes people are wanting, a very quick response. So it can be difficult, but in the long run, if we're able to take that pause and then communicate in an even more effective way, in the long run, our communication is going to be better and we're going to be eliminating those misunderstandings and all of that, even more so. So in the long run, it is better. So another way that you can really decipher when in communication, if you are speaking from a true, authentic space yourself, is to ask yourself a few questions when you are talking to somebody. So as they say something to you before you respond, you can either say out loud or think to yourself the question, is this true for me? And then feel into that and decipher, is this true? Is this not true? Another question is this a belief that I want to have? We can always choose for ourselves what we believe in and what we don't. So to start, those two questions, is this true for me? And is this a belief that I want to have? Can be really, really helpful in helping us communicate even better. Because sometimes it is confusing. We can get into a conversation with one person or maybe multiple people and we can just start saying things and it's maybe even fun and enjoyable and we're in that energy space and it feels good and it feels right. And then after the fact, maybe once we get home or leave that group, whatever it is, we start looking back on some conversations and we realize like, oh wait, why did I say that? Or that's not actually what I think, or that's not actually what I believe, or something along those lines. And we just want to make sure, like, when we are in communication, that we're speaking from our own truth the best that we possibly can. So asking ourselves the questions, is this true for me? Is this a belief that I want to have? And then also, is this in alignment with my values? Is this how I want to show up? And especially when we are doing any kind of inner work and we're wanting to pivot something in our life and make some changes, these two last ones can be really, really important and helpful because we might have a certain belief or truth in the moment that we're wanting to shift and we're wanting to change it. So when we decipher, what are my values? Is this in alignment with those values that I'm wanting to have or building up? And then we can choose from there, yes or no. And if maybe we've been showing up in one way and we decide, I don't want to show up in that way anymore, then is this how I want to show up? And you can decide if it is or if it isn't. So those are a few questions that you can ask yourself while in communication with somebody else to help you facilitate having even better conversations with others. Because when we are able to be in a very crystal clear place, where we are speaking from our own truth, what is true for us, what we believe in, how we're wanting to show up, what our values are, we are able to create the life that feels good to us because it's true to us. And then we're able to be very clear to others, this is how I feel, this is what I believe, this is not okay with me, this is okay with me. Um, and that way others will be able to understand better. And by doing all of that, we eliminate so many misunderstandings, so many confusions, so much of the craziness that can come within communicating and just being in a relationship with others, as we all know. Now, this isn't always easy to do, right? Many of us are in that people pleasing place where we simply say yes when something is asked of us and we just go with the flow. It's easier to do that in a sense. We think it's easier to do that anyway. It's easier in the moment to do that. People like people who say yes and do what is asked of them and the expectation and all of that. So, yes, in the moment, that is easier. In the long term, however, that's where we see burnout and frustration and anger and disrespect and distrust. So, in the long run, it is better if we're able to speak with as much clarity as we possibly can. That is what builds trust, it builds respect. People understand better who you are, what you value, and it's a better way of building true, authentic relationships. And by doing this, the concept of boundary setting as well really does come into play too. As I said a minute ago, people like it when the other person says yes. People like it when others go along with the flow. So when you come in and maybe you say no that day or that doesn't feel right to you, yeah, there might be a little tension there, but at the end of the day, you're being true to yourself, you're sticking to your values, and that's what's important. So, how this all correlates to mindset too. When we are true to our own self, when we do go by our own values, when we are showing up the way that we want to show up, that inner part of us is happy. The soul level is happy. When we are doing more of the people pleasing and going with the flow, even if it doesn't feel right with us, and not being that super crystal clear in our communications, that's when that inner self, that's when that inner soul starts to want to speak up. The intuitive part starts speaking up, and the mind starts receiving all of these thoughts about, wait, like something's off balance here. I spoke this, but it wasn't actually true to me. It's out of alignment. And we move ourselves into more of an imbalanced place than a balanced place. And that's when some of that mind chatter can come in. So the more that we are able to speak our truth, speak what feels right to us, speak in alignment to what values that we hold, what our beliefs are, we are more in alignment with what feels right for us, and that mental chatter will begin to slow down. So I hope this video was helpful for you today. Communication is definitely a thing these days that many of us are going through. Lots of conversations are being had in my world as well. So I hope these tips are helpful in having communication with others for you, and that it helps maybe make that pivot or make that shift in a direction that is beneficial and helpful for you. Thank you for being here again. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please press that like button if you did, and leave some comments down below. Always wonderful to hear from you guys. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.